Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with probably one of my biggest idols. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Alan. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Allan Moffat, and you can hear the applauding right now on the other side. So, how are you, Alan?
The walls are rattling already.
Look, we really appreciate you coming on the show to My Garage Rules and coming down to Little Adelaide for a magnificent show. Why are you here in Adelaide?
It's big time Adelaide.
Big time. We just got the cars outside. It's great, isn't it?
It is.
So this is part of the Corvette. They've got an anniversary or something tonight, and they've asked you to come along to be a guest presenter.
Something like that. Yes.
Oh, that sounds like a really good. Well, let's talk about you now. If somebody's been living under a rock or has been living on Mars and don't know who you are, I mean, but we all know who you are, Alan. Now, you have a distinguished degree. Can I mention that you were born in 1939?
Well, I try to forget that, but yes.
But your distinguished career, your first car, we've got to talk about cars because we're all about cars on this show and bikes, but your first car was a Triumph TR3. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that was a sports car I bought when I first came. My first car really was a 35 Ford, which I took all apart and learned what the difference between a cylinder head was and a tail light. And the TR was my second car, which I bought second-hand in Melbourne. And I just drove that around the streets. I didn't have any illusions about being a race driver, and I make this point very strongly. I wasn't born a race driver. I became one. Wow. I became one because when the light dropped, I applied myself.
Wow. And I'll tell you what, and what a distinguished career. I was actually looking at some of your statistics before, and you've driven everything that's just about in the alphabet with the Ford company, from everything from an XW to XY to XABCD and even an EB.
Yes. And there was a Cortina rally car.
I was about to say the Cortina rally car.
That's
yes.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and
the time Peter Brocky and I passed each other in the air. We went through the water trap. We went up the skid, and then we passed each other in the air.
Oh my God!
And that photo is rather good.
Now, we have to say there is a slight accent with you, but you're so born in Canada, and you came to Australia when?
Just a few days before Christmas of 1960.
Wow.
My dad was with Massey Ferguson, lifelong employee of Massey Ferguson, and he was sent from Toronto to operate the factory in Melbourne. That was the big tractor factory in Footscray in Melbourne. And of course, the family came, my brother and myself, and I actually finished school in Melbourne.
Oh, magnificent.
And I was an Aussie ever since.
I was about to say, you're more Australian than most, mate. So.
Well, I'm very proud of that. I'm an Australian citizen now. Of course, it took a while before citizenship came through. But
and do you like the weather here better?
That's why I never went back to Toronto when my dad was shifted back. I said, Dad, I'm staying, love a country that's got no white stuff on the ground in the winter time. And that was the end of it. I've never been back to Toronto since we left.
Wow, magnificent. So I've got to ask you about the touring cars. So what do you think of today's drivers and today's teams? Does anybody stand out as, maybe your favourite?
I can't comment on that for biased reasons. My son is in the field, so yes, I'm looking at
Oh, that's right. Tell us about your son.
Well, I was very happy to see in Auckland last weekend. He came 10th, was the first Nissan home, and he's in the big league now, and he's spent all his adult life learning and sweeping floors and working for various companies that used him as a gopher, and I was very proud of the fact that he had his nose down and kept himself fit, and now he's driving for Norton, and he has a Nissan contract, and he's a very happy boy.
And you've got to be proud of that.
And Dad is very proud as well.
Now, I've got to tell you now, with touring cars, if you were about to be offered another stint again at racing cars again, for one, would you do it? And for two, what would you change? Would there be anything you'd change?
Well, you're right.
What would you change?
Well, I wouldn't have to change anything because I wouldn't do it, and I'll tell you why. Because in my early days of professional racing in America, Goodyear took me up as under their wing and helped me where they could. And help in that word meant the supply of tires, and fresh tires every weekend made a hell of a difference. they took me to Indianapolis in 1966. 65 or yeah, 66, just to be part of the team and see how it goes. People think Indianapolis is a race. Wrong. Indianapolis is a war. It's a war between Goodyear and Firestone. And they roughly have about 15 or 16 cars each that they have represented as the team. And when the top teams qualified on the first weekend of the race, they were in the race. The two top drivers were fine, but every team at the really professional end had spare cars. So on the third weekend of May, they said, well, we might as well try and get a couple of more cars in the show, as they called it, because it's all money. Money. And when I saw 50-plus old ex-Indy, some of them champions, just some of them regular drivers, being lifted up because they couldn't lift themselves into the car, I said, I'm never going to be a 50-year-old race driver. And to carry that through on my 50th birthday, Klaus Niedewitz and I won the Fuji 500 in Japan.
Oh,
and
yes,
I've never driven seriously since.
Yeah. So do you miss it?
I tore up my license so that I couldn't go against my willpower. And no, I don't miss it. No.
But I'm
so happy that James has fought through the hardships of early days and working for people that wanted him to work him like a gopher rather than a race driver. Some of whom were not all that kind, I might add, for looking after people. But that's behind him, and he's on his way now.
Now, if you don't mind, can we touch on Peter Brock? Now, he was a great mate, and it was sad news of his passing. And how was that day for you?
Well, it was a shocking day because, if I can tell you, I was actually at Winton when James was doing a test day, and the phone kept ringing, and I thought, I don't feel it. Eventually, I took it. First call was a radio station from Perth. 55 radio stations rang me that afternoon. 55. He was so popular. But just a travesty that thousands and thousands of laps that he drove safely, never crashed, never hit anybody. Real genius at work. And then gets in that rally in Perth, blue gum tree, the thickness of this building, and it was all over instantly. Terrible.
I think everybody was touched by Peter Brock, and it was definitely a sad day. And they've just had recently another fatality on the Targa just recently too. So, but motorsport is dangerous, and you take a lot of precautions, a lot of safety precautions and so on. But I want to talk about, let's go on to a happier note, the 1-2 victory win in 1977.
That far ago. That far ago. That long ago.
That long ago.
Yeah.
In fact, I have right here with me tonight, I've actually got the poster, which I was showing you before, the 1-2 thank you from BP, and for 1977, I actually remember that day. I was sitting there with my father watching that, and sorry to say that, but I was a little whippersnapper back then, and I do remember that race.
Well, it was a great achievement for the whole team, and I was so proud of Colin Bond. He was always rear gunner and prepared to stick it out as hard as he could. It was fantastic when I was able to hire Jackie Hicks, 6 times Le Mans winner, to come out and co-drive with me. That was thrilling. Alan Hamilton backed Colin up, and the picture shows it all. Can we show the picture or no?
Yeah,
no.
Probably
You'll take
anyway,
it later.
Yeah.
But to have the 1-2, we were within millimeters of each other. It was absolutely thrilling.
Fantastic. And you were explaining as well, you had no brakes when you were coming through there.
There were about 8 laps to go. I felt the pedal go down a bit, and I thought, oh, that'll be all right. And then I felt it a second time, went all the way to the floor, and I thought, I've got a little trouble here. But I wasn't prepared to go in. There were no Holdens in view, so I thought, well, Colin will get closer to me as soon as he can. And as it turned out, with about 3 laps to go, we got into formation, and then he could have passed if he wanted, but he was a true team mate. He was a team player, and he knew the value of having the number 1 car and the number 2 car. And the photo, you couldn't have
couldn't ask for a better photo.
Hollywood couldn't have got a better finish. But it was a great day, and a great pleasure to have had that, to achieve that.
I was just mentioning before as well, we've got a lot of people that have favourite cars. Now, what's your favourite race car? I know what it is, but we're going to tell everybody else what it is.
Well, I'm normally glib when I'm asked that question and say anyone that got a checkered flag was my favourite one. But my Trans Am Mustang, I had 151 races in that car over 4 years, and won 101 of them. So I have to say that's pretty hard to beat.
Well, just in closing, Allan, we really appreciate for taking the time out tonight to speak to us on My Garage Rules. But look, for any of the younger drivers that are coming into motorsport, any advice for them?
Be prepared to spend your time working on your car, not on your dancing lessons with your girlfriends. Stay off the liquid, amber liquid, and be prepared to do just about everything you have to do to get a break. Because one thing that all team managers, team owners are quite capable of recognizing is when somebody's got their nose down, their backside up, and they're trying hard. And then if they have the capacity to show some experience behind the wheel, that's all it takes.
Well, look, thank you, Allan, and I think the viewers on our show will just absolutely be amazed that you're here tonight for us. So we thank you and enjoy your stay in Adelaide tonight.
And good luck to everybody listening and everyone on the show.
Thank you very much, Allan. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.